Serious, NSFW, what was the most disturbing Reddit post you have seen? Probably the guy who did an entire verified AMA about sleeping with his mom for years. I remember so much of it, but what stood out was someone asked, did you guys kiss during sex, and he said once, but it was weird. Yep. Cause that was the marker for weird. The guy whose son was pure evil. Like, would run around with knives, tried to kill his little sister. Eventually he went on a rampage and they had to lock themselves and their daughter in the basement until he eventually left and they never saw him again. No idea if he was dead or alive. Just complete end of contact. This is a popular one that goes by Jason in Hell. In a nutshell, it was a guy who made a post about how to take action towards his cheating wife. He mentions how his wife would sext with their neighbor frequently and decided to announce it one night when the neighbor was over with his wife. The in-between part is a blur to me, but it ends with him trying to leave and take the kids with him, but the wife had already killed them and tried to kill herself. She called 911 and was uncomfortably calm about it, mentioning she killed the kids herself because she didn't want the husband to take them. Don't remember exactly, but there was a post about a Spanish-speaking wife going into labor screaming at her husband to have the nurses give her medicine for the pain, but he wanted it to be a natural birth so wouldn't translate her cries of pain. She found out years later and was devastated. A woman whose mother accidentally killed her own grandchild by not giving a F about her coconut allergy. I read a post, maybe this sub, where the question was something like people that almost got killed, what happened? This one guy told a story and shared pictures of his neighbor who was breaking into his house. His neighbor was lying in his garage behind some boxes just staring at him. I remember the full story plus pictures kinda creeping me out. A post on our Rabid arsehole which was about an 18-year-old girl who was offered a scholarship in the US by a couple of women who then took her passport and followed her everywhere. She was asking if she was an after demanding her passport back. Everyone was saying that she was likely being trafficked. It ended with her saying that the women were taking her to a dentist. I don't think she responded again and the post was removed. Just thinking about how dangerous that situation was and not knowing if she's even safe makes me feel sick every time I think about it. Just that poor girl. A guy, on this sub, was asking if women would be more likely to have sex with him if he kept them captive in his basement and didn't feed them unless they gave him sex. It seemed like bait, but after looking at his post history I don't think it was. Back when our watch PRPD was still a thing, I saw a post there of a dad and his small son, maybe no more than 4 or 5 years old. It was surveillance footage from the front of a store in what looked like China. The dad was waiting around for something in the front of the store while his son is playing around, playfully hugging his dad's legs and hanging from them. He grabs his dad's legs from behind. Dad loses balance, falls back and lands directly on his son's neck. Kid goes limp immediately. When I saw that video I had just recently become a father and holy it traumatized me. Anytime my kids hold onto my legs I immediately grab onto something stable. A father that found out his teenage son was molesting the family dog is high on my list of disturbing internet content. I watched a video of an elderly man flatline and apparently he molested his son and the father's last words were please forgive me and the son said off and promptly walked out. I was in a thread once that devolved into people posting links to subs that may or may not exist, and you had to click on them to see. I get the exact name, but it was basically and I click on it. The first 10 or so links are exactly what you'd expected, videos of people eating poop. But lucky number 11 was a text post, and out of curiosity I clicked it. I'd give anything to take that click back. It was a dude basically asking I'm considering buying a bag of poop for Ashley 42,069 on Does anyone have any experiences? What followed were at least a dozen responses passionately declaring I've bought from Ashley several times in the past, and she's amazing. She includes a video of her taking the a list of what she ate to make the and a note from her doctor declaring her parasite free. Absolutely delicious. So in summary, take your favorite niche subreddit that you're passionate about. There's a sub full of guys out there who are just as passionate, but about eating girls' poop. That post from the woman who found her birth video on a fetish subreddit, it was FCK and gut-wrenching to read. I remember there was one in our marriage where the wife was getting creep vibes from her husband, and while he was out she was going through things and found a box of his hidden in the closet with little girl's underwear in it. I may be misremembering or combining details if I continue, but she was having a hard time feeling like her husband might be a pedophile and maybe molested children and not believing it. In believing it, then trying to get advice on what to do about all of it. That one stuck with me even with all the sicko whacked out stuff on the internet. This post a girl wrote about her stepmom who didn't like her but told her this story about stranger danger. Basically, the stepmom and her friend were hiking in like the 70s or 80s and got lost. Some dude in a truck picks them up and offers to take them back to where they parked their car. But first he has to take a detour to his cabin and leaves them in the truck while he goes inside. The friend finds a bloody knife in the truck and they both get scared and nope the out of there on foot. Eventually they find their bearings and find the car. Except the man's truck is there as well, but there's no sign of him at all. The friend wanted to bolt to the car and leave. The man wasn't there after all. But the stepmom said absolutely not and made them both wait 4 hours until it started to get dark. Then, as night was falling, they watched in horror as the man slithered out of the back of their car and left in his truck. He'd been waiting in there for them for hours. I don't recall the post. It was years ago, but it was a good one. I'm still up by the one that I hope was a writing exercise where this pregnant woman's father-in-law and husband were probably gonna kill her. The woman who discovered her husband was sending their preteen daughter sexually explicit texts. And, because Reddit gonna Reddit, some redditors were trying to tell her oh it was just texts, it's not like he was touching the girl, as the man sexting his own 11-year-old daughter is just a normal guy who made a small misstep. The post by that guy in Canada who admitted to murdering his girlfriend and gave his whole side of the story as to why he did it and what led up to it. Everyone thought he was trolling, but it turned out to be real. He fled to the US but eventually got caught. There was a post years ago about a couple that had been arrested for forcing children to hurt and maim small animals, and they'd record it. The descriptions of what they made those kids do absolutely shook me in a way that nothing else has. Definitely the one where someone wanted the perspective of rapists. It was something like, we always hear the victim's side of the story, but what about the rapist? And the comments were just filled with absolutely horrifying things. Like how they enjoy the struggle and torture aspect. How they only get off if the woman is frightened or tied up. Think like, Mindhunter, show. Saw a video of a guy running over a giant flock of birds and the video ends with the birds being flattened in a giant mass. It made me very upset and I get very sad thinking about it. This post always sticks in my mind as one of the most heart-wrenching things I've read on this site. Usually I chalk this up to just more Reddit fiction. But what scares me is I've known people like this IRL and stuff like this can and will happen to anyone. That alone scares me. Probably the guy that shot his off. His handle was worthless something, can't remember the number. TW, rape. I read one the other day that was essentially a woman talking about how she was raped when she was younger and came to learn that her now husband confessed that it was him that had done it. He didn't even feel bad about it. He just said he was testing the goods before he got with her. Super disturbing. This one post I saw was about some catastrophic failure of an EV battery at some Chinese electric motorcycle business. In the beginning it looked like a normal day there, but in an instant this huge battery explodes, and not like a regular firework explosion. Then was like a rocket blasting away at the only exit this building had. It looked hot as hell, and there is, I'm pretty sure the CCTV camera began sliding down the wall like it was melting. The worst of it though were the screams of the poor workers. During the chaos you can hear them crying for help and gasping for air. I don't know the aftermath, but the heat plus battery toxins probably really messed them up bad. Absolutely tragic, and totally me up just thinking about them for a day or two. I definitely put back on the NSFW filter after that. Saw the video while scrolling through our all, I think. This was a while ago. Was a dude filming a fox with rabies outside his door. It was all bloodied and almost zombie-like. It was kinda terrifying. Like I knew how scary rabies was before, but I feel like it sinked in watching that.